Today, we're going to dive into the incredible story of the Caddo Nation. It's a journey that stretches from an ancient, incredibly sophisticated society all the way to a modern, resilient people. And believe it or not, it all kicks off with a single word. A word you probably know by a very different name. Here it is, this one word. It looks simple, right? But it holds the key to a history that's both foundational to America and, honestly, deeply ironic. So what in the world does Taisha actually mean? Well, in the language of the Caddo people, who call themselves the Hasí, Taisha means friend or ally. It was a word of greeting, a way of establishing a relationship. It really shows you that for the Caddo, connection was at the heart of everything. Now get this. When Spanish explorers came through, they heard this word, Taisha, and they wrote it down as Texas. That's right. The name of the state of Texas comes directly from the Caddo word for friend. And that is a powerful, powerful piece of history, especially when you find out that the Caddo were eventually and violently removed from the very land that still carries their word.
To really wrap your head around that irony, we have to go back, way back. We're heading to a time when the Caddo world was this vast, complex kingdom built, quite literally, from the earth itself. For over 1,200 years, the Caddo thrived in their homeland, a huge area that would later become 4 different states. And this wasn't some simple, scattered society. Oh no, this was a highly organized world with major confederacies. What's really fascinating is that it was a matrilineal society. That means your identity, your status, it all came from your mother's side, which gave women huge social and economic power. And on top of all that, they were master farmers and built these massive ceremonial centers out of the earth.
Their government was just as advanced. They had this brilliant dual leadership system, a kind of separation of powers. You had the Shenesi, who was the spiritual leader, the person who mediated with the gods and kept the cosmos in balance. And then you had the Kadi, the political leader, who handled stuff like diplomacy and war. It was a system of checks and balances that was in place long before anyone dreamed of the U.S. Constitution.
This stable, intricate world was completely shattered when Europeans arrived in the 16th century. This kicked off a period of catastrophic change that has come to be known as the Great Dying.
You know, the single most devastating weapon the Europeans brought wasn't a sword or a gun. It was germs. The Caddo had no immunity to Old World diseases, and the result was a demographic collapse that is just staggering. In the late 1600s, epidemics wiped out up to 90% of their population. 90%. It's a number that's almost impossible to truly comprehend.
So what happens when you lose that many people? Well, the complex society and the sheer manpower you need to build those incredible earthworks, it just vanished. The centuries-long tradition of mound building just stopped. Archaeologists actually call this the architectural silence, a quiet, chilling testament to a society in collapse.
And for the few who survived the plagues, a new threat was on the horizon: relentless pressure for their land. This started a long, painful trail of broken treaties and a century of being pushed out.
I mean, this timeline just lays it all out. It was a systematic dismantling of their entire world. In 1835, they're forced to sign away their lands in Louisiana and Arkansas. By 1859, after years of violence from settlers, they are forcibly marched out of Texas, again, the land named for their word friend, and into what is now Oklahoma. And then, the final nail in the coffin. In 1902, their communal reservation is broken up and sold off.
And the hostility they faced was just intense. There was a U.S. Indian agent named Robert S. Neighbors. He actually escorted the Caddo's safety in Oklahoma, protecting them from being massacred. But he was seen as a traitor by white vigilantes. And for this act of basic humanity, he was murdered the moment he set foot back in Texas. That one tragic story tells you everything you need to know about the violent reality the Caddo were facing.
But here's the thing. This story of loss, it is not the end. Not even close. In fact, it's the backdrop for an absolutely incredible story of resilience. Today, the Caddo are right in the middle of a powerful cultural renaissance. So, who are the Caddo today? Well, they are a federally recognized sovereign nation. They have their own constitution, their own elected tribal council, and a citizenship of around 7,000 people. And just recently, they achieved self-governance status, which is a huge deal, giving them much more control over their own future. This is the foundation of their modern comeback.
A huge part of this renaissance is the fight to save their language, Hasí. Now, after generations of policies designed to erase it, the last fluent native speaker passed away a few years ago. But the Caddo Nation's position is really firm on this. Their language is dormant, but not dead. They are actively working to create new first-language speakers, which is just a profound act of cultural reclamation.
But that spirit of resilience was put to a terrible test just recently. On April 13, 2019, they were holding their annual Culture Day at their ancestral mound site in Texas, when a catastrophic tornado tore right through it, causing just immense devastation.
People describe this event as a devastating echo of their history. And when you think about it, it really fits. You have a sudden catastrophe out of nowhere, just like the arrival of Europeans. You have a period of shock and trauma, just like their removal. And then, what came next was an incredible act of rebuilding.
The community's response was immediate. It was tribal. Survivors took care of one another. The whole process of rebuilding became a way to heal and to strengthen their connection to that sacred land. And in a beautiful tribute to their matrilineal roots, it was Caddo apprentices, mostly women, who led the charge to build a new, authentic grass house. They literally turned a tragedy into this powerful act of reclaiming their heritage.
And that spirit goes way beyond just that one site. Ancestral arts that were lost for generations, like their world-famous pottery and their intricate river cane basketry, are now flourishing once again. A whole new generation is connecting with the skills of their ancestors.
So, we end right where we began. The name Texas, from the Caddo word for friend, is a permanent reminder of a deep, complicated, and powerful history. And it really leaves you with a question, doesn't it? What other stories, what other histories of loss, and what other histories of resilience are hidden in plain sight on the maps we look at every single day?